The Valori Empire had existed for 10,000 years. Their crystal palaces spread across 100 different worlds. Their ships crossed the galaxy like silver birds flying between stars. They were tall, beautiful, and powerful. They lived for thousands of years. They believed they were the greatest beings in all of creation. Queen Yuna ruled the third spiral from her throne of living light. She had sat on that throne for 600 years. Her skin was pale like moonlight, and her blood ran silver in her veins. This silver blood was the mark of royalty among the Valori. It meant she was chosen by the stars themselves to rule. In her long life, Queen Yuna had seen many things. She had watched empires grow and die. She had seen stars explode and new worlds form from the dust. She had met thousands of different alien species from every corner of the galaxy. But she had never met anything quite like a human. His name was Taiho, and he came from a small blue planet called Earth. He arrived on a transport ship as part of a diplomatic exchange. Earth had only recently joined the galactic community. Humans were new to space travel. They were still learning how to talk to other species. They were considered primitive by most standards. When Taiho walked into the throne room for the first time, the Valori courtiers laughed. They did not laugh out loud, of course. That would be rude. But they laughed behind their long, pale hands. They whispered to each other in their musical language. "Look at him," they said. "He is so small." The Valori stood 3 meters tall on average. Taiho was barely 1.8 meters. He had to look up to meet anyone's eyes. His skin was brown and rough compared to their smooth, glowing flesh. His hair was black and cut short. His eyes were dark and tired. "He is so fragile," the courtiers whispered. "Humans break so easily." This was true. Human bones could snap. Human skin could tear. Humans bled red, not silver, and they bled a lot. They got sick. They grew old. They died. "He will not last," the courtiers said. "Humans live such short lives. 80 years, maybe 90. A blink of an eye." Queen Yuna heard all of this. She saw how her people looked at the human with pity and amusement. But she also watched Taiho himself, and she saw something different. She saw how his eyes moved constantly, looking at every door and window. He was counting exits. He was measuring distances. He was watching every person in the room and deciding if they were dangerous. She saw how he stood. His body looked relaxed, but it was not. It was ready. He could move in any direction at any moment. This was not the posture of a diplomat. This was the posture of a warrior. When he was presented to her, Taiho bowed low. It was a human custom. "Your Majesty," he said. His voice was rough but respectful. "I am honored to be here." "You are the one called Taiho," Queen Yuna said. "Earth has sent only you? No other diplomats or guards?" "Just me, Your Majesty. And what exactly do you do, human?" Taiho straightened up and met her eyes. Most beings could not hold her gaze for long. The silver light in her eyes was too intense. But Taiho looked at her without flinching. "I am a bodyguard," he said simply. "I protect people." The courtiers laughed again at this. A human bodyguard? What could he possibly protect anyone from? A strong wind could knock him over. But Queen Yuna did not laugh. She leaned forward on her throne. "Tell me," she said, "why did you become a bodyguard?" Taiho was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. "I was a soldier on Earth for many years. I fought in 3 wars. I saw a lot of death. When the wars ended, I did not know what to do with myself. Fighting was all I knew. Then someone offered me a job protecting a government official. I found that I was good at it. Good at protecting people. Good at standing between them and danger, Your Majesty. Good at being the first one through the door. good at staying awake when everyone else sleeps. He paused. Someone has to stand between the dark and the light. Might as well be me. Queen Yuna studied him for a long time. The courtiers grew uncomfortable. They did not understand why their queen was giving this creature so much attention. Finally, she made a decision. "You will join my personal guard," she announced. The throne room went silent. The courtiers stared in disbelief. The royal guard had protected Valori queens for thousands of years. They were the finest warriors in the empire. And now a human would stand among them? "Your Majesty," one of her advisors said carefully, "is this wise? The human is so limited." "He is a guest of the empire," Queen Yuna replied, "and I wish to see what humans are capable of. This is my command." No one argued with the queen. Her word was law. And so Tai-Ho found himself wearing the silver uniform of the royal guard. It did not fit him well. It was designed for beings much taller and thinner than him, but he wore it with pride. The other guards did not welcome him. They were polite because they had to be, but they did not include him. They did not train with him. They did not eat with him. They thought he was a joke that would soon go away. Tai-Ho did not seem to mind. He simply did his job. He learned the palace. Every corridor, every room, every hidden passage. The Valori had built their palace over thousands of years. It was huge and complicated, full of secrets. Most people only knew the parts they needed to know. Tai-Ho learned all of it. He walked the lower levels where servants worked. He explored the old tunnels that no one used anymore. He found emergency exits that had been forgotten centuries ago. He made maps in his head and memorized them. The other guards thought he was strange. Why would he waste his time learning servant passages? Tai-Ho just smiled and kept walking. He also studied the people in the palace. He watched the courtiers and learned their faces. He noticed who talked to whom. He saw which guards were serious about their duty and which ones were lazy. He paid attention to everything. Most importantly, he watched Queen Yuna. He learned her routines. He knew when she woke up and when she slept. He knew her favorite places in the palace. He knew which ceremonies were important to her and which ones bored her. He watched the people around her and tried to understand their intentions. High Commander Do-hwan was one of the most important people at court. He led the palace guard and had served the throne for 300 years. Everyone respected him. Everyone trusted him. But something about Do-hwan made Tai-Ho uneasy. He could not explain it. Do-hwan was always proper, always loyal, always perfect in his duty. Perhaps that was the problem. He was too perfect. No one was that perfect for 300 years. Tai-Ho kept his thoughts to himself. Who would listen to a human's suspicions about the great High Commander? Weeks passed. Then, months. Tai-Ho became a familiar sight in the palace. People stopped noticing him, which was exactly what he wanted. He was just a human. The strange little creature who followed the queen around and took his job too seriously. Queen Yuna, however, noticed him more and more. She noticed that he was always there, standing quietly in the corner, watching. She noticed that he positioned himself between her and any crowd, even though there was no danger. She noticed the way he tensed slightly whenever someone moved too quickly toward her. One evening, after a long ceremony, she asked to speak with him privately. "You are always so alert," she said. "Do you never relax?" "Not when I am on duty, Your Majesty. But surely you know that I am safe here. The palace has protected Valori queens for 10,000 years. Nothing has ever threatened us." Tai-Ho looked at her with those tired, watchful eyes. "That is exactly what worries me, Your Majesty." "What do you mean?" "The longer you go without trouble, the more you forget what trouble looks like. You stop watching. You stop preparing. And that is when trouble finds you. Queen Yuna considered this. It was a very human way of thinking. Her people believed in order and stability. They trusted in the systems that had worked for millennia. But humans came from a chaotic world. They expected things to go wrong because things always went wrong on Earth. "You think something bad is coming," she said. "I always think something bad is coming, Your Majesty. That is my job." She smiled slightly. It was not a happy smile, but it was real. "Then I'm glad you are here, Taiho, even if no one else is." He bowed his head. "I will not fail you, Your Majesty. Whatever comes." He meant it. He meant it more than he had ever meant anything in his life. The Valori did not understand humans. They saw a short lifespan and thought it meant humans did not value anything because they would lose it so quickly. They were wrong. Humans valued things more because their time was short. They loved harder. They fought harder. They held on tighter. When a human gave their loyalty, they gave it completely. They gave it with every part of themselves, knowing they had only a few decades to prove it true. Taiho had given his loyalty to Queen Yuna, not because she was beautiful or powerful or ancient. He gave it because she had looked at him and seen something worth keeping when everyone else saw a joke. He would die for her if he had to. He hoped he would not have to. But if that moment came, he would not hesitate. The night of the harvest moon celebration was 3 weeks away. It was the most important ceremony of the year. The entire court would gather to honor the old traditions. Taiho did not know it yet, but that night would change everything. That night, the palace would fall silent. Every system would fail. Every trusted face would become an enemy. And when the darkness came, only the human would stand guard for his queen. The betrayal did not begin with violence. It began with patience. High Commander Dohwan had served the throne for 300 years. In that time, he had never once failed in his duty. He had protected 3 different queens. He had won battles against enemies from distant stars. He had earned every medal and honor the Empire could give. No one questioned his loyalty. How could they? He had proven himself 1,000 times over. But inside his heart, something dark had been growing for decades. Dohwan remembered a time when he was young and full of dreams. He had wanted to be more than just a soldier. He had wanted to matter. He had wanted power. Not power over others, but power to change things. Power to make the Empire better. But the Valori did not give power to soldiers. The royal bloodline ruled, and everyone else served. It did not matter how smart you were or how hard you worked. If you did not have silver blood, you would never sit on the throne. Dohwan accepted this for many years. He told himself that serving was enough. He told himself that he was content. He was lying. The poison of ambition worked slowly. It started as small thoughts. Why should one family rule forever? What made silver blood so special? The queens were not chosen by the stars. They were chosen by luck of birth. Nothing more. These thoughts grew over time. Dohwan began to see the Empire differently. He saw waste and weakness. He saw a queen who was too kind, too gentle, too willing to make peace when war would bring greater rewards. He began to plan. It took him 50 years to put his people in place. 50 years of carefully promoting the right soldiers. 50 years of removing those who might be problems. 50 years of building a network of loyal followers who shared his vision. 50 years of vision. His followers believed in him completely. He told them that the Empire needed change. He told them that Queen Yuna was leading them toward decline. He told them that only he could save their people. Some of them believed because they wanted power for themselves. Some believed because they truly thought they were doing the right thing. It did not matter. They all followed Dohwan. By the time the human arrived at court, everything was ready. Do-hwan had soldiers in every part of the palace guard. He controlled the security systems. He had allies among the technicians who maintained the palace defenses. All he needed was the right moment. The Harvest Moon celebration would be perfect. Every important person in the empire would be gathered in one place. The queen would be distracted by ceremonies. Security would be focused on outside threats, not internal ones. Do-hwan watched the human with curiosity at first. Taiho was so small, so weak, so out of place. He was amusing, like a pet that someone had dressed in fancy clothes. But as weeks passed, Do-hwan began to feel something else. He felt watched. The human had a way of looking at people that made Do-hwan uncomfortable. Those dark eyes seemed to see too much. They lingered too long on faces. They noticed small things that others missed. One day, Do-hwan caught Taiho staring at him during a meeting. The human looked away quickly, but not quickly enough. In that brief moment, Do-hwan saw something in those eyes. Suspicion. It was impossible, of course. The human could not know anything. Do-hwan had been careful. He had left no evidence. Even his most loyal followers did not know the full plan. But still, the human made him nervous. Do-hwan considered getting rid of Taiho before the celebration. It would be easy. Humans were fragile. An accident could be arranged. A fall down some stairs. A malfunction in an airlock. No one would investigate too carefully. But that might draw attention. Queen Yuna seemed fond of her human pet. If he died suddenly, she might ask questions. She might delay the celebration while she mourned. No, better to leave the human alone. What could one small creature do against an army? The night of the Harvest Moon arrived. The palace was beautiful. Lights floated in the air like captured stars. Music filled the great hall, played by instruments that had existed for thousands of years. The courtiers wore their finest robes, fabrics woven from materials found only on distant moons. Queen Yuna stood at the center of it all, radiant in silver and white. Her crown glowed with its own inner light. She smiled and greeted her guests and performed the ancient rituals perfectly. Taiho stood at her shoulder, as always. He should have been enjoying himself. The celebration was the most magnificent thing he had ever seen. The Valori knew how to create beauty that humans could barely imagine. But Taiho was not enjoying himself. Something felt wrong. He could not explain it. Everything looked normal. The guards were in their proper positions. The guests were behaving as expected. There was no sign of danger. And yet his instincts were screaming at him. Taiho had learned to trust his instincts long ago. On Earth, during the wars, those instincts had saved his life many times. They had warned him about ambushes that no one else could see coming. They had told him when to duck before the bullets started flying. Now those same instincts were telling him to run, to grab the queen and get out. He tried to ignore the feeling. He was being paranoid. The palace was the safest place in the empire. Nothing could happen here. But the feeling would not go away. He started watching more carefully. He looked at the guards around the room. They were standing correctly. They were armed correctly. They were facing the right directions. Something was wrong with their faces. Taiho studied them one by one. These were supposed to be the queen's most loyal protectors. Men and women who had sworn their lives to her service. But they were not looking at the queen. They were looking at each other. Small glances, quick and subtle. Signals. They were communicating. Taiho felt his heart begin to pound. He forced himself to stay calm. He could not make a scene. He could not be wrong about this. He looked for Do-hwan and found him on the far side of the hall. The High Commander was speaking with a group of officers. He looked relaxed and happy. Then Do-hwan checked the device on his wrist. Just a quick glance. Nothing unusual. But Taiho saw one of the guards near the main door check his own wrist at the same moment. And another guard by the windows. And another by the service entrance. They were synchronized. They were waiting for something. Taiho moved closer to Queen Yuna. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, leaning near her ear. "We need to leave. Right now." She turned to look at him with surprise. "What? The ceremony is not finished. I cannot leave. Please, Your Majesty. Trust me." "Taiho, what is going on?" He did not have time to answer. The lights went out. Not slowly, like a dimmer being turned down. All at once, like someone had cut the power. The floating lights. The chandeliers. The glowing decorations. Everything went dark. The music stopped. The guests began to murmur in confusion. Then the emergency lights came on, casting everything in a harsh red glow. Taiho grabbed the Queen's arm. "Stay close to me." He heard Dawan's voice ring out across the hall. "Everyone remain calm. This is just a technical problem. The guards will." The main doors burst open. Soldiers poured into the hall. Not the regular palace guards. These wore different armor, marked with a symbol that Taiho did not recognize. They carried energy weapons raised and ready. The guests started screaming. They tried to run, but more soldiers were coming through every entrance. Within seconds, the entire hall was surrounded. Dohan walked to the center of the room. He was smiling. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice calm and pleasant. "Please do not be alarmed. This is not an attack on you. This is simply a change in leadership." He turned to face Queen Yuna. "Your reign is over, Your Majesty. The Empire needs new guidance. I will provide it." The Queen's face was pale, but her voice was steady. "You are a traitor, Dowan. You will fail." "I do not think so. Your loyal guards are dead or imprisoned. Your communication systems are down. Your defensive systems are under my control. You have no one left." Taiho stepped in front of the Queen. Dowan laughed. "Ah, the human. I forgot about you." He waved a hand dismissively. "Kill him and take the Queen to the holding cells. We will deal with her later." 3 soldiers moved toward them, weapons raised. Taiho did not think. He did not plan. He moved. He grabbed the Queen's hand and pulled her toward the nearest service door. His free hand found his sidearm and fired twice. 2 soldiers fell. The 3rd soldier fired back, but Taiho was already moving, putting a pillar between them and the enemy. The energy bolt burned past his shoulder, close enough to singe his uniform. "Stop them!" Dowan screamed. But Taiho had reached the service door. It was locked, of course. All the security systems were under enemy control. He shot the lock 3 times. The metal melted and the door swung open. He pushed the Queen through and followed, slamming the door behind him. They were in a servant corridor, narrow and dark. The red emergency lights barely reached here. Taiho could see maybe 10 meters ahead. "This way," he said, pulling the Queen deeper into the darkness. "How do you know where to go?" she asked. "I learned the palace," he said. "Every corridor, every tunnel. Everyone thought I was wasting my time." He led her through a maze of passages. Left, right, down a flight of stairs, through a kitchen that had been empty for centuries. He moved with confidence, even in the near darkness. Behind them, they could hear shouting. Soldiers were coming. "They will find us," Queen Yuna said. "They control the entire palace." "They control the systems," Taiho replied. "But they do not know this place like I do." Taiho moved through the darkened corridors, with the Queen close behind him. Her hand was cold in his, trembling slightly. In 600 years of life, she had never experienced anything like this. She had ruled from a throne of light. She had commanded armies with a word. But now she was prey, hunted through her own home. Tai-Ho kept his weapon ready in his other hand. It was a simple projectile gun, primitive by Valori standards. The palace guards had laughed when they saw it. They used energy weapons that could cut through steel. What good was a gun that fired metal? But Tai-Ho knew his weapon. He knew its weight, its sound, its range. He had fired thousands of rounds on Earth. He could hit a target in total darkness just by listening. And unlike energy weapons, his gun did not light up when it fired. In the shadows, that made all the difference. They paused at an intersection. 4 corridors branched off in different directions. The red emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. "Which way?" Queen Yuna whispered. Tai-Ho closed his eyes and listened. He could hear boots in the distance, coming from the left. Voices echoing from the right. Ahead was silent, but that did not mean it was safe. "Down," he said. "There are maintenance tunnels below this level. They have not been used in years. The enemy might not even know they exist." He found a service panel on the floor and pried it open with his fingers. The metal cut his hands, but he did not make a sound. Below was a ladder leading into darkness. "I will go first," he said. "Count to 10, then follow." He dropped into the tunnel and landed softly. His eyes adjusted to the deeper darkness. The tunnel was narrow, barely wide enough for one person. It smelled old and forgotten. "It is safe," he called up quietly. "Come down." Queen Yuna climbed down the ladder. Her royal robes caught on the metal, tearing the fine fabric. A few months ago, that would have been a scandal. Now it did not matter at all. When she reached the bottom, Tai-Ho replaced the panel above them. It would not stop the enemy forever, but it might slow them down. They moved through the maintenance tunnel in single file. Tai-Ho led, one hand on the wall to guide him, the other holding his weapon. The queen followed, trusting him completely. "Where are we going?" she asked. "There is an emergency hangar on the east side of the palace. It holds a private shuttle meant for evacuating the royal family in case of attack." "Do you know about it?" "I have heard of it. I never thought I would need it. If we can reach it, we can escape. The shuttle has its own power source, separate from the palace systems. Do-hwan might not be able to stop it, and if he can?" Tai-Ho did not answer. They both knew what would happen if they failed. They walked for what felt like hours. The tunnel twisted and turned, following paths that had been forgotten centuries ago. Sometimes they had to crawl through narrow sections. Sometimes they had to climb over debris that had collected over the years. Queen Yuna did not complain. She did not ask for rest. She simply followed her human guard through the darkness. At one point, they stopped to catch their breath. Tai-Ho leaned against the wall, checking his weapon. He had fired 4 shots in the Great Hall. His gun held 12. 8 bullets left, 8 bullets against an army. "Why are you doing this?" Queen Yuna asked suddenly. Tai-Ho looked at her. In the faint light, her silver features were barely visible. Her crown was gone, lost somewhere in the escape. Her robes were torn and dirty. She did not look like a queen anymore, but she was still his queen. "Because it is my duty," he said. "No," she said. "That is not what I mean. You could surrender. You could tell them that you were just a hired guard, that you have no loyalty to me. They might let you live. They might. Then why do you stay? Why risk your life for someone you barely know?" Tai-Ho was quiet for a moment. He thought about Earth, about the wars he had fought, about the people he had protected. He thought about why he did what he did. "On Earth," he said slowly, "we have a saying. When you save someone's life, you become responsible for them. When someone trusts you to protect them, that trust becomes part of you. You cannot betray it without betraying yourself." He looked at the queen. You gave me a chance when no one else would. You saw something in me worth keeping. That means something to me. More than my life." Queen Yuna stared at him. In all her centuries, she had commanded thousands of soldiers. They had fought and died for her because it was their duty, their tradition, their obligation, but this human fought for her because he chose to. Because she mattered to him as a person, not as a queen. "Taiho," she said softly, "I do not know what to say." "You do not have to say anything, Your Majesty. Just stay close and let me do my job." He pushed away from the wall. "We should keep moving. They are probably searching the tunnels by now." They continued on. The tunnel eventually ended at another ladder leading up. Taiho climbed first, listening carefully. Above was another corridor, this one wider and cleaner. They were getting closer to the outer sections of the palace. He helped the queen up, and they moved on. They had traveled maybe 100 meters when Taiho raised his hand to stop. Ahead, where the corridor turned, he could see the flicker of lights. Not the red emergency lights, but moving lights. Flashlights. Soldiers. He counted the flickering shadows. 3, maybe 4 of them. They were coming this way, searching every corner. Taiho looked around. There was no side passage, no place to hide. The corridor was straight and empty. What do we do? Queen Yuna whispered. Taiho made a decision. "Stay here," he said. "Do not move until I come back for you." "What are you going to do?" "What I do best." He moved before she could stop him. He walked toward the soldiers, not sneaking, not hiding. Just walking calmly, like he belonged there. The soldiers saw him immediately. "Halt!" One of them shouted. "Identify yourself." Taiho kept walking. He held his hands at his sides, not raising his weapon. "Not yet," I said. "Halt." He was 20 meters away now. He could see their faces in the light of their flashlights. 3 Valori soldiers, tall and armored, carrying energy rifles. "It is the human," one of them said. "The one who escaped with the queen. Where is she?" The leader demanded. "Tell us, and we will make your death quick." Taiho stopped. He was 10 meters away. "Close enough. I will ask you one question," he said. His voice was calm, almost friendly. "Are you willing to die for Doan?" The soldiers laughed. The leader aimed his rifle at Taiho's chest. "You are joking. You are one small human with a primitive weapon. We are 3 trained Valori soldiers. You should be asking yourself that question." Taiho nodded slowly. "Fair point. But here's the thing about humans. We are not very strong. We are not very fast. We do not live very long. But we have one gift that most species do not understand. And what is that? We are very, very good at killing things. We have been doing it for 1,000,000 years." He moved. The Valori were fast. Their reflexes were better than any humans. They could track movement that would be invisible to human eyes. But Taiho was not trying to be faster. He was trying to be smarter. As he moved, he threw himself to the left, toward the wall. At the same time, his hand came up with his gun. He did not aim at the soldiers. He aimed at the light above them. The shot hit the fixture, and the corridor went dark. The soldiers fired, but Taiho was no longer where he had been. He rolled across the floor, came up in a different position, and fired twice more. He aimed at the sounds, at the shuffling of feet, at the heavy breathing. 2 bodies fell. The 3rd soldier swung his rifle around, firing wildly. The energy bolt burned past Taiho's head, so close he felt his hair singe. Taiho fired again. The soldier fell. Silence. Taiho stood in the darkness, breathing hard. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline. His body was flooded with it, like it had been in the wars. He walked back to where the queen was hiding. She was pressed against the wall, her eyes wide. "It is done," he said. "We can continue." She stared at him. "How?" They were Valori. They were faster than you, stronger than you. Yes, Taiho agreed. But they expected to win easily. That made them careless. And I have been fighting since I was 18 years old. I know how to survive when I am outmatched. They stepped over the bodies and continued on Dot as they walked. Queen Yuna looked at Taiho differently. She had thought she understood humans. She had read about them, studied their history, watched their representatives at court. She had not understood them at all. These small, fragile creatures had climbed to the top of their world, not by being the strongest or the fastest. They had done it by being relentless, by refusing to accept defeat, by fighting with every trick and tool they could find. Taiho was hurt. She could see it now in the way he moved. There was a burn on his shoulder from the earlier fight. His hands were bleeding from climbing. He was exhausted, running on nothing but determination, but he kept going. He did not complain. He did not slow down, because humans did not know how to quit. They reached the next level of the palace. They were close now. The emergency hangar was only 2 more sections away, but the closer they got, the more soldiers they would find. Dohan would have guards at every possible exit. Taiho, the queen said, I need you to promise me something. Anything, Your Majesty. If it comes down to a choice between saving yourself and saving me, you will choose yourself. Taiho stopped walking. He turned to look at her. I cannot promise that. I am old, she said. I have lived for 600 years. You have lived for less than 40. Dawn was still hours away when they reached the final corridor. Taiho stopped at the corner and looked carefully around the edge. His heart sank. The corridor ahead led to a large reinforced door. Beyond that door was the emergency hangar, with the shuttle that could save them. It was right there, maybe 50 meters away. But between them and the door stood Dohan himself. And with him were 20 of his finest warriors. They were arranged in a perfect formation. Some knelt in front, weapons aimed down the corridor. Others stood behind them, creating a wall of firepower. Dohan stood at the center, his silver uniform gleaming in the emergency lights. He was waiting. Taiho pulled back around the corner. His mind raced through possibilities. There was no other way to the hangar. The only other exit had been sealed when Dohan took control of the palace systems. This was it. This was the only path. 20 soldiers. Professional warriors, all of them. Each one had been trained for hundreds of years. Each one was faster, stronger, and better equipped than Taiho. He checked his weapon. 5 bullets left. He had used 3 on the last patrol. 5 bullets against 20 soldiers. Queen Yuna read the look on his face. How bad is it? She asked. Dawan is here, with 20 men. She closed her eyes. For a moment, she looked very old and very tired. Then she opened her eyes again and straightened her shoulders. Is there another way? No. Then we will have to go through them. Taiho looked at her. She was serious. After everything they had been through, after all the fear and exhaustion, she was still ready to fight. She was still a queen. Your Majesty, he said carefully, I need you to understand something. There is almost no chance we both survive this. If I can create a distraction, you might be able to reach the door. But I will not be coming with you. Then we find another way. There is no other way. Then we wait. Help might come. It will not. Dowan controls the communications. No one knows we are here. Queen Yuna's hands tightened into fists. I will not leave you to die for me. Your Majesty, no. Her voice was firm but quiet, careful not to echo down the corridor. You have protected me all night. You have fought for me when everyone else betrayed me. I will not repay that by running away while you are killed. Taiho felt something warm in his chest. It was gratitude, he realized. Gratitude that she cared about his life. Gratitude that to her, he was not just a tool to be used and discarded. But he could not let that change what had to happen. "Your Majesty," he said gently, "if you die here tonight, Dawan wins. He takes the throne. He rules the empire with fear and violence. Everything you have built, everything you have protected for 600 years, all of it disappears." He put his hand on her shoulder. "But if you survive, you can rebuild. You can gather your allies. You can take back your throne and bring justice to those who betrayed you. Your survival matters. Mine does not." "That is not true," she whispered. "Your life matters." "It does. And the best use of my life is to make sure you live. That is what I chose when I took my oath. That is what I choose now." Tears formed in her ancient eyes. She had not cried in centuries. Valori queens did not cry. But tonight, she was not just a queen. She was a person who was about to lose someone she cared about. "I do not want you to die," she said. "I know. But if I have to die, this is how I want to go. Protecting someone who matters. Fighting for something real." He managed a small smile. Humans are romantic that way. He looked around the corner one more time. Dohan's soldiers had not moved. They were patient. They could wait all night if they had to. "Here is the plan," Taiho said. "I am going to walk out there and draw their attention. When they focus on me, you run for the door. Do not look back. Do not stop for anything. Just run. The door is sealed. I know the override code. I memorized it weeks ago, just in case." He told her the code. "Say it back to me." She repeated the code. "Good. The door will open in 3 seconds. Get inside, seal it behind you, and launch the shuttle. Do not wait for me. Taiho, promise me, Your Majesty. Promise me you will run." She was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. "I promise." He reached out and took her hand one last time. Her silver fingers wrapped around his calloused ones. "It has been an honor to serve you, Your Majesty. And it has been an honor to know you, Taiho. There will be songs about you. Stories that will last for thousands of years." He smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had ever seen from him. It transformed his face, made him look young and almost happy. "Make sure they get my good side." Then he let go of her hand and walked around the corner. Dowan saw him immediately. "There you are," the High Commander said. His voice was calm, almost amused. "You have led us on quite a chase, human. I will admit, I underestimated your kind. A mistake I will not make again." Taiho kept walking. His boots clicked on the floor, steady and unhurried. He held his weapon at his side, not aiming it at anyone. "Stop right there," Dowan commanded. Taiho stopped. He was 30 meters from the formation, too far to do any real damage with 5 bullets. He needed to get closer. "I want to make you an offer," Taiho said. His voice echoed in the empty corridor. Dowan raised an eyebrow. "An offer? What could you possibly offer me?" "Information. I know where the Queen is hiding. I can take you to her." Behind him, still hidden around the corner, Yuna tensed. For a moment, she thought he had actually betrayed her. Then she understood. He was buying time, getting them to talk instead of shoot. Dowan laughed. "You expect me to believe that you would betray her? After all the trouble you have gone through." "I am a professional," Taiho said. "I protect people for money. She cannot pay me any more." "You can. Interesting. And what would you want in return?" "My life, safe passage off this planet. Enough credits to start over somewhere else." Dowan pretended to consider this. "A reasonable offer. But I think you are lying." I think the queen is right behind you, waiting for a chance to run. She is not. Then you will not mind if my soldiers go check. Dawan gestured, and 4 soldiers broke from the formation. They began walking toward Taiho, weapons ready. 20 meters now. Getting closer. Taiho's finger tightened on his weapon. That is far enough, Dawan said suddenly. The soldiers stopped. I think we have played this game long enough. Kill him. 20 weapons aimed at Taiho. Run. Taiho shouted, and he charged. He did not run toward the soldiers. That would have been suicide. Instead, he ran toward the wall, then kicked off it and changed direction. He moved in a zigzag pattern, never in a straight line, never where they expected him to be. Energy bolts filled the corridor. They burned the air around him, left scorch marks on the walls and floor. One hit him in the shoulder, spinning him around. Another grazed his leg. But he kept moving. 5 bullets. He made each one count. The first shot took down a soldier who'd stepped forward too far. The second hit another in the arm, making him drop his weapon. The third and fourth went into the center of the formation, creating chaos. The fifth he saved. Behind him, Queen Yuna ran. She ran faster than she had ever run in her life. Her bare feet slapped against the cold floor. Her torn robes flew behind her. She did not look back, just like Taiho had told her. Dawan saw her. The queen! Stop her! Some soldiers turned to fire at her, but Taiho was in the way, drawing their attention, making himself a target. Every second they spent on him was a second she had to run. Taiho was hit again. In the chest this time. He stumbled but did not fall. 20 meters to the door. 15. 10. Queen Yuna reached the control panel and punched in the code. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost made a mistake. But she got it right. The door began to open. Taiho fell to his knees. He had taken too many hits. His body was burning, failing. But he still had 1 bullet. Dohan was walking toward him, a blade in his hand. The High Commander wanted to finish this personally. You fought well, human, Dohan said. For a primitive creature, you showed remarkable courage. I almost respect you. Taiho raised his weapon. His arm was shaking. His vision was blurred. 1 bullet left, he said. Enough for you. Dohan laughed. You can barely hold your weapon. You will miss. Maybe, but I have been shooting since I was a child. Even dying, I do not miss. They stared at each other. For a moment, neither moved. Then a new voice rang out through the corridor. Stop. Queen Yuna had not gone through the door. She was standing at the threshold, her hand on the control panel. Harm him, she said, her voice carrying the power of centuries. And I swear by every star in this galaxy, I will tear your rebellion apart with my own hands. You may take my throne, Dowan, but you will never hold it while he breathes. Dowan hesitated. He looked at the queen, then back at Taiho. In that moment of hesitation, everything changed. Alarms began blaring throughout the palace. New lights came on. Not the red emergency lights, but bright white lights. The sound of shuttles could be heard outside. What is happening? Dowan demanded. A voice crackled over the palace communication system. This is General Hai-Jin of the Outer Fleet. We have received the Queen's distress signal and have taken control of all orbital defenses. Palace forces are ordered to stand down immediately. Anyone who resists will be considered a traitor to the throne. Dowan's face went pale. Impossible, he whispered. The communications were down. No signal could have